Today's lesson is adding vectors. Okay, in our first lesson we learned about magnitude and direction. Now, the thing to keep in mind on this one, these have parentheses, not pointy jobbies, so those are actual points on the graph. So if we graph this, like this one's at 4, 7, and the other one's at -7, 13. This is, and it says it goes from P to Q. P is the initial point, Q is the terminal point, and my vector goes like this. Okay, to find magnitude of my vector, you have to have this distance and that distance, a squared plus b squared. Well, how do we find them? Well, you do y minus y, so 13 minus 7 squared, and -7 minus 4 squared, and then you take the square root, the distance formula, y'all. Okay, so you do the math and you end up with the square root of 146. If we want the decimal of that which is okay right here, square root of 146. See what my calculator tells me. Shift square root 146. It tells me the square root of 146. You gotta do decimal. So that's 12.08. It depends on if you have a calculator or no calculator. Okay? Oh, it says both exact. So, square root. Direction. I need the angle. So, really, you draw a horizontal line here. And I'm looking for this angle here. I'm going to set it up as inverse tan, opposite over adjacent. So, this height is what? 13 minus 7, which is 5. And -7 minus 4 is 11. And it's going to give me an angle. All right, so inverse tan, 5 over 11, tells me it's 24.44 degrees. But that's this one. So I have to do 180 minus 24.44. And that gives me 155.55 degrees. So you got to pay attention to that. You have to know what quadrant you're in. You really know this is negative. So you have a positive y and a negative x. It's in that quadrant. You got to figure out that this is the reference angle, and you subtract from 180. Okay? Number 2, these are vectors. They got pointy jobbies. We will need to add them together. Well, if I sketched this, okay, I'm going to show you how to sketch it. Never mind, erase that one. You give yourself a starting point. Oh, give yourself a starting point. I go over -2 and up 4. Okay, so this is U. And then V, you start at the end of this one. When you add, and you go over 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up 1. So that's V. Okay, this one was U. And this is my resultant. Okay? And the way you find it, that's finding it geometrically. To do it algebraically, you just add up your x values and then you add up your y values. So R is my resultant. You'd have -2 plus 6, and you'd have 4 plus 1. So you'd get 4, 5. And that's your resultant here. This is 4, and this would be 5. Alrighty? Sketch and find U minus V. All right, this is, you have to pay attention. So I draw my horizontal line. I have my initial point. I went over -2 and up 4. So there's U again. When you are subtracting, it's negative. It's going in the opposite direction. So instead of going up this way, it's going down this way. And my resultant is here. Okay. Negative V is equal to -6, -1. If you subtract them, you just subtract the components. So my resultant is negative 2 minus 6 and 4 minus 1. And you end up with negative 8, 3. Okay? So you have to know how to draw them. It goes in the opposite direction. That's what the negative means. And that's about right. This should be over here at 8 and up by 3. Okay. Find 3u and 2v in component form. Also state magnitude and direction of the resultant. So that means I'm going to take u and multiply by 3. So 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And I'm going to subtract twice that. And I'm going to have 3 times the y value. 3 times 4 is 12. And I'm going to subtract 2 times that, because I'm subtracting. So you get negative 18 and 10. That's the component form of the resultant. To find the magnitude, you take the square root of 18 squared plus 10 squared, and you end up with the square root of 424, which is 20.59 degrees. No, not degrees, pounds, whatever it is. Sorry, that's not your angle. Your angle is inverse tan of 10 over negative 18. So remember, if I was graphing this, negative 18's here, 10's here, so I'm in the second quadrant again. So I'm going to do this, and I get my angle to be 29.05. You have to subtract it from 180 again. This you just have to know, people. Okay? I don't know how else to tell you. How do you know which quadrant? Because this is negative and that's positive. That's the second quadrant. Okay? So this is your angle, which is 150.95. That is degrees. Okay? Component form. All right, state the component form, magnitude, and direction of the vector who would produce equilibrium. All right, so let's graph this one. Okay, you're going over negative 2, negative 3, so it's down here. So if I'm pulling in this direction with 10 pounds of force to keep it equilibrium, make sure that point right there doesn't move, I got to pull in the opposite direction with the same force. Okay? So the component form of that vector that causes equilibrium is the complete opposite of that. Okay? So it would be 2, 3. That's important. You sent it in the other direction. Now so that's down here, 2, 3. Magnitude is the square root of 2 squared plus 3 squared. 4 plus 9 is 13. Okay, so the square root of 13 is exact. If you have a calculator in your hand, you can tell me it's 3.6. Then I do the inverse tan of 3 over 2, and I get 56.31. I'm in the first quadrant, so I don't have to add or subtract anything to it. Okay, that's not bad. All right, find the component form, magnitude, and direction of the resultant. No calculator, which I didn't catch at first. These are all pretty angles on your unit circle. So first thing I'm going to do is find component form for u and v, and then we'll come back and do this. Okay? So v in component form, remember, is the magnitude times the cosine of the angle. Well, 270 degrees is 3 pi over 2. And 2 times the sine of 3 pi over 2. Well, the cosine of 3 pi over 2 is 0. And the sine is negative 1, so this is negative 2. If you do u, you get 4 times the cosine. Well, 150 degrees is right there, so that's 5 pi over 6. Okay? Well, let's see. The cosine of 5 pi over 6 is negative root 3 over 2. So 4 times negative root 3 over 2. And then I have 4 times a half, which is negative 2 root 3 and 2. So that's the component form of u. Now, you want to do this problem. So part A, the resultant is adding them together. So you add these two, so you have 0 plus negative 2 root 3, and you have negative 2 plus 2, which gives you negative 2 root 3, and oh, we didn't have to find magnitude and direction. Well, let's see. Magnitude would be negative 2 root 3 squared plus 0 squared, and then you take the square root. So the magnitude, oh, this is the magnitude of r, is just negative 2 root 3. And the tangent and the angle, well, where's negative 2 root 3 is over here, and y is 0, so it looks like 180 degrees. Okay, there it is, 180 degrees, or pi. Let's see, for part B, what do I have to do? 2v minus u, so 2 times v, so 2 times 0 is 0, minus v, which is negative 2 root 3, and then 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 minus 2. So that's 2 root 3 and negative 6. Okay, so here was that one. Here's this one. We got to find its magnitude. So you have 2 root 3 squared plus negative 6 squared. Take the square root. Well, what happens when you square that? You get 4 times 3 is 12, plus 36 is 48. Since I don't have a calculator, that's my answer. I don't know how we do the inverse tan on this. Inverse tan of negative 6 over 2 root 3, which these cross out. Oh, we got that. Inverse tan of 3 over root 3, which is the same as the inverse tan of root 3, right? Because if I clean this up, this is weird. Multiply by root 3, you get 3 root 3 over 3. These guys cross out. So who has a tangent of root 3? I'll draw my triangle. It'd be root 3 and 1 and 2. So that's pi over 6. Whew, that was tough. There we go. Done. Go practice.